Okay, so we are done with the UI for sign-in and registration. So what we need to do now is to implement the actual functionality for signing the user and signing them up. So first thing before we forget is that I need to go to the Firebase. So here click on continue to console, and if you refresh this one, as you can see now we have this app. It has already been connected and it says 2 apps here. So I'm going to click on build, I'm going to click on authentication, I'm going to click on get started, and inside the sign-in method I'm going to enable email and password and click on save. And also inside the build again, I'm going to click on firestore database. So inside of this database, I'm going to click on create database. So here, for the location, you should choose the one that is closest to you. For example, if you're in South Africa, you should choose Johannesburg. If you're in Japan, Tokyo. If you are in India, Mumbai. Seoul for South Korea, Singapore, Sydney, Australia, and Warsaw, Poland, etc. You get the point. I'm just going to leave mine to United States, and I'm going to click on next. So here I'm going to click on start in test mode, and I'm going to click on create. So once it's created like that, we can go to rules. So for now, I'm going to change these rules to allow read write if true. So I'm going to change it in future, but for now I'm just going to leave it true, and I'm going to publish that. So I'll go back to Android Studio. Now inside here, I want us to create now the functionality for logging in the user. Okay, so to do that, inside this authentication folder, we have this data. So inside this data, right click on it. I'm going to create a file here, which I'm going to call Auth repository. So this is going to be class Auth repository. Inside of this class, we need to implement some functionalities. Final Firebase Auth, Firebase Auth. I'm going to call it Auth, and then I can create a constructor that takes the Auth. So this dot Auth, like that. So we can use now this Auth variable to create the user and also to sign in the user. So let's first create the method to sign in the user with email and password that we collect using these text form fields. So the method is going to be a feature of type void, which we are going to call sign in with email and password, which is going to take named parameters as instead, which is going to take a required string email. Also is going to take a required string password. So it's going to be an async method. So inside of it, we are going to await underscore auth dot sign in with email and password, and we pass the email and the password like that. Okay, that is all that we need to do to sign in the user with email and password. We also need to create the user with email and password. So we are going to create another method of type void, which is called create user with email and password, which I'm going to use named parameters as well. So required string email, comma, required string password. So it's going to be an async method, and we are going to await auth dot create user with email and password, passing in the email and the password like that. Is that something else that we need to do is to get the current user. So we can use the user class that is provided by Firebase, but this user, remember, they can be null. So that's why we are using the question mark here. It's a nullable user. So this is going to be called get current user, like that. So what we want is to return an auth auth.current user. Again, we need to create auth state changes. So a stream of type user. This is going to be called auth state changes. I'm going to return auth state changes. Finally, we need to create a sign out method, so which is going to be a feature of type void called sign out async. So we are going to await auth.sign out like that. So for those set changes, I forgot here to return. So we should return auth state changes like that. What I need to do again is to create providers for this class, also for these auth state changes, and also for the current user, so that we can access them in other parts of the application. So to do that, I'm going to use the @Riverpod annotation here. I need to return the auth repository. So auth repository. So auth repository ref. So here I want to return the auth repository and pass the Firebase auth.instance. So to solve this error, first of all, the Riverpod, I need to import the Riverpod annotation, and up here I need to add the part auth repository .g.dat. Okay, now with that I can open the terminal, and inside here I can run run build and click on enter. So this one should run and is going to create the file with the provider required by this file to eliminate these errors as well. So the file has been created successfully. So something else that we need to create, of course, is the provider to get the current user, and also for the auth state changes, for the current user and for the auth state changes. So I can say @Riverpod stream user auth state changes ref. So here we can create final auth repository equals to ref.watch auth repository provider. And remember, this provider has been created and is inside this G file that has just been generated. So here we want to return auth repository.auth state changes. So basically it's this method here, like that. So finally I need to create a provider for the current user. So I'm going to use @Riverpod, and I want to get the user. So this is the current user ref. So final auth repository equals to ref.watch auth repository provider. Then we want to return auth repository.current user. Okay, to solve these errors, we can again open this, and we are going to run that. So as you can see, it has completed, and it has added these other providers inside of this G file. Something that I can do is that since we need to constantly keep looking at this, we can add Riverpod keep alive to true for all of these methods here, like that. So before we can use this inside these widget classes, we need to remember that we need to update the state and show a loading indicator or an error when such an event occurs. So to do that, I'm going to go to the presentation file right now, and I'm going to create yet another folder which I'm going to call controllers. So inside of these controllers, now this is where we are going to create the code that is going to update the UI accordingly. So I'm going to call this Auth controller, and so this class Auth controller is going to extend async notifier of type void. Okay, and it's going to ask us to override, and we are going to add that. And for now, we don't have anything that we need to do inside this build method. Okay, so what we need to do here now is that we are going to create a future of type void. So this method is going to now update the state when we are signing or creating a user. So for creating a user, so we are going to call it create user with email and password. So this one is going to have required string email, also required string password. So it's a future, so we can add async, and then inside here we can update the state. So state equals to const async loading. So this is going to update the state to loading state, and then we can update the state again. So state is equals to async value dot guard. So this guard has the, if you go to implementation, it has a try and catch, so it's going to work on error handling for us. Inside of this guard, it gives us a closure. We are going to use ref.read. So what we want now is we want to read the auth repository provider dot create user with email and password, and we pass the email and the password like that. Again, here this state we need to await it like that. Okay, so when we are creating the user with email and password using our repository, we are going to update the state to loading, and then we are going to change the state to error or data once this method is called. All right, so we also need to create another method for now signing our user, which is of type future void. So future of type void. So this is going to be called sign in with email and password. Going to be required string email and required string password. I'm going to add an async there. So again, here we need to update the state to const async loading like that, and then we update the state again. So state equals to await async value dot guard like that. This gives us a closure. Ref.read the auth repository provider, and then we call sign in with email and password, passing in the email and the password like that. We could do the same for logout as well. And so let me create this method here called sign out. It's an async method. We update the state, and then we update the state once again. So is equals to await async value dot guard ref.read auth repository provider dot sign out like that. To have the provider created for us automatically, we are going to add part auth controller .g.dat like that. Riverpod keep alive and set it to true, and then here we can use a $sign like that auth controller. I can go to the terminal and run that again, and that should create the G file here and solve all these errors. Alright, so as you can see with that, we have solved those errors, and this auth controller.g.dat file has been created successfully.